Could you tell us about SIV product in general? What kind of product is it, and how is that regulated?
Let me just set out the rules of the framework that the SIV program operates under. So there's something called the Complying Investment Framework, which the Australian government put in place some years ago. And the SIV was first introduced in 2012. And then it was revamped in 2015, in July 2015, when the government put in place the rules which are currently in place. And the Complying Investment Framework was put in place by a government department called Austrade. And they are still involved in the program, which is now overseen by the Department of Home Affairs. That was formerly the Department of Immigration. The Complying Investment Framework are the rules which govern the SIV program, and these are the rules that the Australian government have put in place in what you must invest in if you want to obtain a significant investor visa. The framework was revamped in 2015, and those rules remain in place today. And the requirements are that you must invest a mandatory amount or a minimum amount of 500,000 into an Australian venture capital or private equity fund, a minimum of 1.5 million or 30% into an emerging company or small cap fund. And then the remaining balancing investment or 60% of the 5 million must be invested in something, a fund investing in commercial property, in bonds or listed equities. So investors have a choice on what they invest in for that component. And generally, they will choose the investment that matches their preference for risk and return for that. For example, if you are very risk averse, you want a lower risk investment, then something like corporate bonds would be suitable for the balancing investment. If you want to get a higher return but are happy to take higher risks, then you would invest in listed equities for the balancing component.
So can I say that all of the SIV products that are allowed for the visa are highly regulated? They must be monitored by a government body. And how does the government check the compliance of the funds?
Sure, that's a good question. So in terms of regulation, Australia is actually a very sophisticated and quite a well-established financial services market. You know, this is the industry here, the funds industry is been in place for many, many years because Australia has got something called compulsory superannuation. So everybody who works here must contribute a portion of their salary into their superannuation. As a result of that, it's a very well-regulated market. And the regulator for fund managers are called ASIC, the Australian Securities and Investments Commission. And ASIC issue licenses to fund managers, which is an Australian Financial Services License or AFSL. Now, in order to offer funds to SIV investors, you must have an AFSL. And that's governed by ASIC, the Australian government. And it's quite a strict governing regime that they put in place. Now, in addition, with SIV, you've also got the Department of Home Affairs. They're the people who issue the visas, and they will also check to make sure that each investor has invested in the investments that they're required to. And they will require the fund managers to make a declaration at the beginning and at the end of the visa period to confirm that the investor has made the complying investments for a continuous period of 4 years. And if that's been in place and the investor has also fulfilled the minimum number of days in Australia, then the investor is entitled to permanent residency at the end of the visa.